Imagine a war, fought across thousands of miles of ocean, involving brutal island battles, relentless naval blockades, and astonishing acts of sacrifice. A war that would forever reshape the world. Welcome to the Pacific War between the United States and Japan. Our story begins not with the clash of ships or the roar of aircraft, but in a world gripped by unease. It's the late 1930s, and Japan, hungry for resources, is tightening its grip on Asia. Having invaded Manchuria, it now sets its sights on Southeast Asia, eager to become an empire in its own right. But there's one major obstacle in its path: the United States, which holds sway over vital resources Japan desperately needs. The tension is thick. Diplomacy fails. And on a quiet Sunday morning in 1941, Japan makes a decision that will ignite the Pacific War. December 7, 1941. Pearl Harbor. Japanese planes appear on the horizon, and within moments, chaos erupts. Explosions rip through American battleships as over 350 Japanese aircraft unleash fury upon the U.S. fleet. The once peaceful harbor is now a graveyard of twisted metal and billowing smoke. The United States is shaken to its core, reeling from the staggering losses. Over 2,400 Americans dead, the Pacific Fleet devastated. But the attack does something else. It unites a nation and marks the beginning of a relentless U.S. pushback that would soon reach Japan's doorstep. After Pearl Harbor, the U.S. faces immediate setbacks. Japanese forces rapidly sweep through the Pacific, capturing Guam, Wake Island, and the Philippines, and establishing a perimeter of fortified positions. The U.S., still regrouping, suffers one bitter defeat after another, but refuses to surrender. Deep in these dark moments, one thing becomes clear: this will be no ordinary war. It's June 1942, and the tide of the war is about to shift. Japanese forces aim to capture Midway, a crucial island that would give them dominance over the Pacific. But U.S. cryptographers crack Japan's secret codes. The U.S. learns of the Japanese plans, and in a dramatic twist, sets an ambush. Picture the scene. June 4th, dawn breaks over the ocean as fleets move silently in the mist. American planes, taking off from carriers miles away, swoop down upon the Japanese fleet. The battle rages as explosions fill the sky, ships sink, and men fight for their lives. Within hours, 4 Japanese carriers, the pride of their navy, are destroyed. The loss is catastrophic, a blow from which Japan would never fully recover. The Battle of Midway changes everything, turning the Pacific into a hunting ground for the U.S. Navy. Now, with Japan weakened, the U.S. embarks on a new strategy: island hopping. Rather than taking on every fortified island, the U.S. targets key islands, leaving the others cut off and isolated. Every inch of the Pacific is now contested territory, from the dense jungles of Guadalcanal to the rocky beaches of Tarawa. In Guadalcanal, U.S. Marines face relentless waves of Japanese soldiers, fighting not only the enemy but sweltering heat, disease, and unforgiving terrain. Imagine being one of those soldiers, living in fear of sniper fire, rationing your water under the blistering sun, never knowing if the enemy is lurking nearby. But the Marines press on, inch by inch, securing the island in one of the most grueling campaigns of the war. As the U.S. moves closer to Japan, the fighting becomes even fiercer. Japanese forces defend every island with suicidal resolve. When the U.S. reaches the Philippines, Japanese pilots initiate kamikaze attacks, planes diving directly into U.S. ships in a desperate, lethal effort to turn the tide. The U.S. soldiers are both horrified and awestruck by the enemy's unyielding determination. It's a deadly cat-and-mouse game that tests the limits of human endurance and courage. By early 1945, the U.S. is close to Japan. The next step is Iwo Jima, a tiny volcanic island with strategic importance. As American forces land, they encounter a landscape of black sand and brutal defenses. For 36 days, soldiers battle in hellish conditions. It's a fight like no other, with every inch of land costing countless lives. The iconic image of the U.S. Marines raising the flag on Mount Suribachi becomes a symbol of hope and resilience. Yet beneath that flag, the toll of war is staggering. Then comes Okinawa, the bloodiest battle of the Pacific. This time, Japanese civilians are caught in the crossfire, adding a heart-wrenching element to an already devastating war. The skies are filled with kamikaze planes, the ground is drenched in mud and blood, and the U.S. faces fierce resistance. Okinawa is the final stepping stone to Japan, and it becomes clear that an invasion of the Japanese mainland would be catastrophic for both sides. But in August 1945, a new weapon changes the course of history. The US drops atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, unleashing unprecedented destruction. Japan, finally facing the unimaginable, surrenders on August 15, 1945, bringing an end to one of the deadliest chapters in history. As the dust settles, the world stands changed. The Pacific War claimed millions of lives, left cities in ruins, and demonstrated both the heights of human courage and the depths of human sacrifice. Today, the legacy of the Pacific War remains, a sobering reminder of the costs of conflict and the resilience of those who lived through it. The Pacific War was more than just a conflict. It was a clash of empires, ideologies, and human willpower. And as we remember those who fought, we also remember the lessons they taught us, that peace, once shattered, comes at an unfathomable cost.